Hello there, and welcome back to my video series, where I'm working through all the challenges in my book, The C Sharp Player's Guide. We are working through the final battle, which is a very long series of challenges. Let me bring this over here. We've been working through the core game challenges. There's 9 of those. We are to, well, I think this is the 6th one, this death one. We're finally going to give our characters, once their HP hits 0, then we're going to remove them from the game. And then we're also going to have to handle the round ending and the whole game ending. So that's what we're going to be doing this time, adding on to where we left off last time. So let's start thinking this through. How could this work? We do already have HP. We know when it reaches 0. And we could deal with this at the moment we deal damage. Like right here, we could say, if we reached 0, then they're dead. And I think that could be a pretty reasonable thing here. Like, and I'm just, again, I'm not committed to this right now. I'm just kind of sketching stuff out. Like, but we could do something like console.write line target.name has been defeated. Now, obviously, I need to do this only if target current HP is 0. You throw that in here. I kind of wonder, though. Right now, the only way that characters can lose HP is if they are attacked. That may not always be the case, and I wonder if we maybe want to not deal with this in this attack action, but maybe somewhere a little bit higher up. There's a trade-off there. I don't know that one way or the other is, absolutely better than the other. But in this case, let's suppose we had the ability to use an item, and that wouldn't be an attack action. It would be like a using an item thing, or I don't know. Imagine if you had a version of this where you could do an attack and it didn't do any damage, but it poisoned them, and then they lost 1 HP every single turn, or something like that. Then it's the kind of thing that may need to be resolved after, like, at a different point in time. Death may not always come directly as a result of an attack. So I don't think this is a bad approach. Just leaving this in here is a reasonable start. But I actually think what I want to do is I'm gonna actually shift the burden, I think, of detecting death up a level. I'm gonna bring it up to, where is the battle? I think I'm gonna have the battle do that. And there's this right here, run party, run, this run method or this run party. So after we take a turn, we could do it. We could do it here. And I think this would be the problem is that at this level it's a little trickier, because from the perspective of a battle, it has no clue it just knows that actions are this I action. They're just things that you can, and that defines what that is. It's just a thing that you perform. And we don't know what effects are going to come out of that. So it's a little tricky to know, where to put this in. So in theory, at any time after we run an action, maybe we should check and see if any characters are died. And this could result in an action that does, something like an earthquake that brings all the rocks down in the room on all the characters, including your own. And it could be something that any character on either side could die from. Like, you could kill off everybody all in one one action, depending on what the action is. Of course, I mean, right now we have the rest action and we have the attack action, where the way that's set up, we're not gonna kill off all the characters all at once. So that isn't a threat right now. And again, the simplest thing, honestly, is probably just in the attack action to just say, hey, they're dead. But one thing we can do here is we can do so anyway, just putting that all the way down in the attack action is an okay thing to do. I think it's probably the simplest thing to do, but it also doesn't give us the same degree of flexibility. Now, I don't know that I anticipate we're going to use that flexibility. So again, maybe that's a reason to just keep things simple. Usually simpler designs are better than more complicated designs that accomplish the same thing. But this is one of those examples where maybe let's just explore this for a little bit and just see where it goes. So maybe what we do is after we do an action, we want to handle deaths. And I'll just make another a method here. I'm actually going to call this handle potential deaths. And then in here, we're going to say for each character C in, well, yeah, C. I usually prefer longer names in, anyway. So I'll use character for the moment. In heroes dot characters. So, I mean, the simplest version here is this. We just say if character dot current HP equals 0, console dot write. Well, now we need that other logic. I think I might still have it. If character dot current HP I'm going to remove, well, so we need to do this for the heroes and the monsters. And I think this is going to get just a little bit tricky on us. So we either need to like copy and paste this and do it for the monsters, or maybe what I'm going to use is just a little bit of link here. And there's this concat method. There. So now this will concatenate the hero characters with the monster characters. So this enumeration will now walk down all the hero characters, and then it will immediately walk down all the monster characters. It creates a new collection that has all the heroes followed by all the monsters. And then if the character is dead, then we display they've been defeated. So I think that is a good start. Now I'm going to let this run. This should, if a character dies, then it'll report it. The main catch being it won't, like, they'll still take a turn even though they're dead. And like here, let's see. Skeleton is now at 0 out of 5. Skeleton's been defeated. That's what we wanted. And then it says it's Skeleton's turn. Skeleton used Bone Crunch. So the skeleton still kept going. At some level, we need to, once they're dead. So we could, yeah, there's some complexity here. So if character, well, there's a couple things I want to do here. One is I actually, like, as nice as this is, like, that's not too bad, but I actually kind of want to, what I want to do is I want to shift this logic over to the character class. I want to just have a thing in here that says, so we've got our max HP and our current HP. I want I want this logic to just live in here. So is alive equals current HP is greater than 0. So if we have any HP, then that is the answer to this query. Are they alive? And now I just want to come in here and say if not character is alive, now we can do that check. So in here we don't want a character that's dead to take a turn. So if character is alive, so yeah, if the character is alive, I'm gonna run through a couple of variations on this. If the character is alive, then we want it to take its turn. Otherwise, we want to do nothing. And now I would prefer generally to flip, this is just getting very deeply nested. If we invert the logic, if we say if they're dead, skip it. That would be less indentation. So I'm gonna, this actually has this quick action, invert if. I'm gonna click on that and do it, poof. And now if the character is not alive, continue. So in this case, I do not need the curly braces. Oops, I do not need the curly braces. Even need that. So if they're not alive, just continue. But I could actually go a step farther and do characters.where use link. Yeah. So now this gets all the characters in the party, and then as it's working its way down that list, it will skip over all the ones that aren't alive. So it'll only surface the characters whose is alive reports true. So now I don't even need extra logic in here. This just says for all the characters that are alive, do this. This still isn't quite there, and I'm not loving it, but at least this time now characters, like once the skeleton dies, that it won't get any more turns. The thing I think we're going to see here though is that we're going to keep getting the skeleton reported as dead over and over again. Yeah, so the skeleton's been defeated. The skeleton's been defeated, but but we still keep treating this as though it's alive. Like here, I still found the character and dealt damage. So at some level, we need to remove the characters, any dead characters, from the list of options. And I actually think we need to do that sooner rather than later. And that's going to be, the way this is set up, that might be just a little bit tricky. Because what we want is all of the characters to, yeah, okay, let's see. Take a step back, think this through. If the character is not alive, then what we want to do is remove it. Heroes.characters.remove the character. And monsters, right now we don't know which party this guy belongs to. So we just ask each collection to remove the character. And this is actually, so that's gonna maybe work for the moment. Let's see. I'm worried. There's one thing I'm worried about, and we'll see if it's an issue here or not. That's the second time that's done that. I don't know what's going on there. It's waiting for me to push a key. And then it displays this message that usually is there right at the end, and then it starts running the program. I haven't ever seen that happen before. I don't know if I'm doing something weird or what, but yeah, that is what I was worried about. I actually thought it would bite us here, but yeah, so the problem here is we are in the middle of doing a for each, which is using the IEnumerable mechanisms, and that stuff breaks if we change the collection as we're trying to enumerate it. For a list, it breaks. So and that's what's happened here we've removed a character. This is enumerating through the heroes and the monsters, and then we've said change it. So we're getting bit by that. Collection was modified, enumeration operation may not execute. So as soon as we modify it, then we can't keep enumerating. But that's actually kind of what we need. So anyway, at any rate, we need to do one of two things. Either we need to, like, a for loop does not have this problem. So either we need to switch it to a for loop, or we need to be working with a second copy. So for example, and like this right here, I mean, you've at this point you probably went through the link chapter, the query expression chapter, and you probably have at least a little bit of experience with this. But this is like evaluated lazily. Like it doesn't create a whole new collection. It's just sitting there, like, working down existing stuff a little at a time. If we do .toList at the end of this, then this will create an entirely new list. So this will take all the heroes and all the monsters and put them in a new list. And now that's what's getting enumerated, which means we can modify the originals without any downside. So if I rerun this, I think things should work correctly. Let's see if I get that same problem again. Like, it didn't happen this time. I don't know what was going on there. Well, now I got it. Hear that? Oh, okay. This is way earlier than I was expecting it to be, and that's because now I am removing all the character from everybody. You guys probably saw that, and I just missed it. But if we find a dead one, let me rerun that now. If we find a dead one, that's the only time we actually want to start removing them. All right. So now this time, I think we should get to the end. Yeah, and now our AI is saying, well, there's nothing left to do, so we're just going to rest, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. So that is all looking pretty good. I think there is one catch still, and that is that we're calling this method from inside of this for each loop. And if some action that we took, um, if some action that we took killed one of, like, if we took a poisonous, if we ate a poisonous mushroom, or if we ate a mushroom that had a 90% chance of healing you and a 10% chance of killing you, like, we might, like, there are scenarios here, they don't exist yet, but where the you might have killed somebody on your own team, and in that case, I really do think here we would get bit once again up here. So we could do a similar thing where we could just work with a copy. The problem is in this case, then maybe we don't want. Yeah, I mean, the problem, if we work with a copy, then the problem is that, like, it gets a snapshot of the data right then and there. So, and if we do that, then the list of, we avoid our enumeration issue, but in that case, it leaves us in a state where if a character died, then we may still tell it to run. And even if we do this where is alive, like that, if we just do this .toList, then in that case, now we've captured the list of all the characters that are still alive in a separate list, but that doesn't reflect if they ended up dying. So if we're going to do that, then it makes sense to do that check again in here. So if character is alive, if not alive, continue. Though even this still also has a limitation. This also still has the limitation of, sorry, I'm trying to think through how to phrase this. This also still has the limitation of like, I, there are things that could happen. Like if something happens, like it's these actions can be just about anything, including you could have an action that summons a minion, and all of a sudden your side ends up with an extra character, and so this action could add that character in, but that character would not get a chance to run because this is going to capture this list of characters at the start for the party and not after. So there's a lot of there's adding and removing stuff to a list of things is honestly rather complicated. Like dealing with this fact that like we're in the middle of like enumerating all of the characters and giving each of them a chance to go, but the list of characters that are in the mix could be changing, and this character death thing is a pretty straightforward example of it, but that isn't the only scenario where we could be doing it. So so it's hard to know like if we did make a change to the the list of characters that are in play at any point in time, it's hard to know what we should do. Like, should they get another turn? What if we are halfway through a list and we added it to the beginning of the list where we've already processed it? Do we have to go back and handle those, or do they just have to wait until their next turn? Or what exactly is the scenario here? Like, how do we handle this? Because it is complicated, and frankly, people have expressed, I've seen it, I have expressed it myself, frustration about that the thing that we saw here that got us into this is where we modified the list of stuff, and it said, hey, you can't modify a you can't modify the list as it's happening. um Sorry, you can't modify the list while I'm enumerating it. While I'm walking down it, if you modify it, then all bets are off. So it throws that exception. We're really seeing this exact same thing, just at a slightly higher level, because now we're dealing with basically two lists. So it's the same issue though, and we're only partially solving it here by some of the things that we're doing, where we're saying, make a copy so that we can keep enumerating through all the characters that were there before, and allow ourselves to modify, remove characters from the official lists as we go. So we're enumerating a copy, modifying the original, and same here where we are, we're enumerating the list that was there to begin with. If a character died in the meantime, we'll skip it, but it isn't perfect. So there are still scenarios here where we, unanswered questions about what if a new character showed up or something like that. So, um, it feels like we maybe don't have 100% solution here, but this should be good enough for the types of things we're planning on doing. Um, and it, like, even that scenario of I'm adding characters, I summon a minion. I think that could work. It would just have the potentially unintended side effect of they don't get a turn until next time. And that's honestly not that weird or bad. It's fairly reasonable. New thing that just got summoned can't take a turn yet, but uh so I think there are probably a whole lot of other ways that we could handle this, and one of them is to not use a loop, but rather like to just like iterate down it and give them each a turn. Rather, we could have the AI um, basically handle all of that and just say, sorry, the AI. It is an AI, but it's more broadly it's a player. So you could set it up so the player will like you can see if a character gets marked, whether it's had its turn or not, and I'm just brainstorming here. I'm not gonna write any of this. I'm just thinking it out loud. But yeah, where every character gets marked, or whether it has made an action or not, and then as those lists change, they it'll as they take a turn, it'll be there. But if this new thing gets summoned, it will get summoned and put in as it hasn't had a turn. The player, either the computer AI or the human player, would be able to say, well, like I would like to try to take a turn for this character, and the system would say that guy's already had a turn this time around, so you can't, and so on. So I do think there are other ways to solve this. I don't think it's an unsolvable problem, but I don't think we're going to try and solve it right now. So I'll just leave it at that. And yeah, so let's think this through. So we do have the ability now for characters to die and to be removed, and that ended up being trickier than it maybe should have been, more complicated than probably felt natural. But that's okay. So we're removing characters from the game, and then between rounds or between character turns, the game should see if a party has no more living characters. If so, the battle in the game stands. So let's see if does this work if all the characters are dead? So if there's something does eliminate all the characters in this party, we'll just get this if statement for all the rest of them. And then we'll leave this for each loop. So in here, after one thing we could do is we could say at this point, so if heroes dot characters dot count is greater than 0, and monsters dot characters dot count is greater than 0. So if both sides have something left, then keep going while if. There, let's try that. While there's hero characters and there's monster characters. So by the way, that's a very simple way to do it, but this another link method is another possibility, and that kind of reads better. There's probably a tiny performance cost to it, but maybe I like that better. So heroes.characters.any and monsters.characters.any give each of them a turn. Another possibility here, though, given that we don't necessarily, I'm just trying to think through these scenarios. These are little details that can add some polish. I don't know that it's like you don't have to have figured out all these little details, but I'm just thinking through what happens if during the hero's turn the hero's party is eliminated. It doesn't really make sense to run the monster party when the heroes have been defeated. They would all just rest, and that's not a horrible thing to do, but why not end the round sooner? So I kind of wonder about something like this. Like what if we put this in we make a method, and then I'm going to make a couple of little manipulations here. I want this to be an expression body, and then I actually just want it to be a property instead of I want it to be a property instead of a method. So while I've named that wrong. I'm going to take a couple steps back here. So while is battle still going? Again, I'm going to, so I like that name better for what this is. But like I said, I actually think that maybe what we want to do, because I want it to break after we run each party. So here what we'll do is I'll just say if not is battle still going, break. But you know what? Maybe that's true here too. Maybe after we do this right here, maybe we should run that. If is battle still going, return. Let's just bail on running the party. So if it's over, let's let it be over. So now this should allow the whole battle to end. Let's see if that's the case. So once that skeleton. Okay, yeah, once that skeleton's gone, then it's over. You know what? I do want to test this just a tiny bit more, even though we've set this up to have just a single skeleton. Like, what if we had a few skeletons? My hero character might have more of a threat. I'll make sure this is working. Punch, skeleton use bone crunch. Yeah, this is. Something is broken here. There should be multiple skeletons taking turns. And we are not getting that. So we got a bug. Let's see if we can find it. I'm suspecting it's in this battle thing. And maybe it was that right there. You know, the logic for knowing whether it's still going was easy, but I kind of some of these other ones I think it would read easier if it was that is battle over. So I'm just going to throw in a little convenience property here and just do if is battle over, return. And then if is battle over. So I think that reads better. If the battle's over, then break. If the battle's over, break. Same down here. If the battle's over, return. So I like that better. Interestingly, though, like you can see this here, like now the only place this is used is here. And so in theory, we could eliminate that and do, I got to get parentheses around this whole expression. There. If, yeah, so we kind of worked our way into this property. I think that reads better. We use that and all because everywhere we were doing it, we were saying if not, is battle still going or whatever it was called. I think this is better, and we just kind of worked our way into that code. I think that's a good way to get to finished code sometimes too. So now with that, let me run this again. Run this. Let's see. Skeleton, skeleton, skeleton. So I don't think any skeleton's been defeated yet. And the main hero is at 18. We'll see if this. It should get better in time. We see it defeated. We haven't yet. There's, okay, so 1. Just trying to figure out where. I'm a little surprised the skeleton is at 2 because wasn't the skeleton at. Is this the second skeleton? Maybe this is the second skeleton, except for that this has. We're still getting 3. Okay, there is a definite skeleton dead. I don't know that I saw that anywhere up in here. So maybe the skeleton. Yeah, so at this point now, there's only 2 skeletons. Oh, this is doing it? Okay, okay, that makes sense. I had forgot. I thought we were just doing like one at a time. And in a previous challenge, we had a conversation about like what is the right AI here? Should it pick it randomly or um, should it pick it randomly or should it like always go after the first one or something like that? I was in my head. I was thinking that we were always going after the first one in the list instead of doing it at random. So. Um, Yeah, so once they were all down to low health, that then it all happened pretty quickly because we're hitting them all more or less evenly, and so once they started to die off, it went quickly. Um, but definitely with that scheme, it is totally possible that you could end up dying. The hero character could end up dying. So, but that looks like it worked. Now the only thing that's left here is maybe this part right here where we need to say something like um, we need to display. I'll just throw this into another method. And we can check. So if heroes, I don't know, maybe this isn't worth a whole other method. If heroes dot characters dot any. So if anybody is left alive, then console dot write line. Well, let's see, what does this say? Display a message stating the heroes won. You have won. The uncoded one has been defeated! Exclamation mark. Else console dot write line. You have lost. The uncoded forces have prevailed. All right, so there. Now we should get on our way out of the game. We should get a status of what happened. Let this run for a second. We'll see if we get the same outcome. I think. I mean, given the randomness of the Bone Crunch attack, I suspect if we deal damage to there's our first defeated skeleton. There's our second one. Okay. That was super close. Yeah, I do think that if the skeletons tend to get lucky and if the player's distribution of attacks is spread out enough, you could get let's see. You could get them all down from 5 to 1 without having any of them die off. So that's 4 times that's 12. The skeletons get 12 chances to attack. 12 times 3 is 36. They have the potential to deal 36 damage before skeletons are guaranteed to die. I think that means that the skeletons could deal up to 39 total damage, depending on how things play out, if I'm thinking through that math right. But there is definitely a chance that the hero will die here. But and so now we have this, and the last thing on its way out is it says you won. I think if we added one more skeleton, we would almost for sure kill off the hero, and we'll see that losing message. Let's ensure it. Overwhelming force here. almost there. There. Okay, so it does seem like the game is working as it's supposed to. It is currently a 0-player game, and I'm going to remove mostly skeletons now. But yeah, so we could do. It would be kind of nice to have some color, like make this red or make this green. And I think I want to do that. I'm gonna come down here and make another class though that I tend to do, public static class. And I could like reuse this code. Like I could make a NuGet package or a separate project that has this like shared code. Like if I were doing something that was going to last longer than the next just short little while, I would 100% like make this thing reusable. But given the nature of this, I'm not doing too much here. It's hard to justify going through all those hoops just to get this little bit of functionality. I do not need to return a string. So now I have a little utility method. Before this is done, we may end up making also a right instead of just right line. But now in these places, I can come up here and I can say, what's that? Here, we can just use our other colored console class and do console color.green and colored console red. So there we go. So now we'll get just a little bit of color in here. And we can start using that in a lot of the rest of our stuff because like honestly, a lot of this stuff in here would be nice to have a little bit of color as well. So now we've got some basic building blocks. Okay, that is enough for this. And like I said, again, this is kind of detecting some of this like win and loss stuff. It was tricky, and the trickiest part was really the fact that we knew things were dead, but being able to modify those lists while we were trying to work down the list, work through the list, really did kind of have some trickiness to it. And again, like I said, I think there's probably some different designs that could have allowed us to manage that. But I think what we got here works well enough. So I think we'll call that good enough for now and move on to the next challenge next week. So thanks again for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.